Premier Brad Wall yesterday surprising many in the nation with comments that I observed in my commentary today reflect in many ways a new Canadian approach toward Quebec. The Premier just made it clear as Quebec pulls out of a National Healthcare Committee that Quebec has, quote, of late been more a distraction than a constructive partner. So it's a little bit of don't let the door hit you on the way out. Premier Brad Wall, the co-chair of that Premier's Conference on Health. We find the Premier en route to Regina this morning. Premier, thanks for taking our call.
Hi, John. Actually, we're heading to Saskatoon for the Suma Bear Pit.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay. So now the comments you made on Quebec not many years ago would have been seen as pretty provocative.
Well, you know, I'm not sure about that. I just think it was important for us to state that we were making progress with this working group. These are health ministers from across the country that Premier Giz and I are chairing, and the premiers have asked us to find innovation, to bend the cost curve, to improve patient care. We've got a new deal on generic drugs that'll save millions of dollars across the country. We're working on best practices, and if Quebec's interested in participating, that's great. They can offer a lot, and if they're not, you know, we've got work to do. And what I said yesterday was lately, I think it's been a bit of a distraction since the new government was elected. And, you know, we're going to move forward, and I think that's what I said yesterday.
Has Quebec done anything or not done through the new PQ government, you know, that's specifically been a distraction on the healthcare talks?
Well, we struck a deal, as you know, and I've just referenced with respect to generic drugs. And all the provinces have to agree. If you're going to have basically a process where we have a pan-Canadian approach to purchasing these drugs to save money, then you need it to be pan-Canadian. And Quebec on that one just said, we're not in, we're out. We'll kind of wait to see what deal you get. And that seemed to be the sentiment now with this new, with the new Marois government, the separatist government in Quebec, on a number of different issues. It's not just drugs that we're looking at, as you know, John. We're looking at best practices. We're looking at cooperating and sharing information and resources on the big issue of human resources within health. In our budget, in our healthcare budget, it's 70% of the budget goes to human resources. So, you know, if you're going to have this national effort and you have the second most populous province is not involved or asking for the quote-unquote asterisk on every initiative, it could be a bit of a distraction. And fair enough, they don't want to participate. That's fine. That's their decision. But we have work to do, and I think the rest of the country is seeing some merit in the process, and we're just going to move forward.
Premier Brad Wall with us. Other issue, you're on the way, as you mentioned, to the SUMA convention in Saskatoon for the Bear Pit session where the mayors grill you and members of the cabinet. Keynote address the other day at SUMA, you started to sketch out a look at the coming spring budget. What is the status now on revenues from oil?
Well, there's a couple things to point out with respect to natural resource revenues to the government. We see them softening in this year towards the latter half of this current year that we're still in. And remember, our budget year ends March 31st and the new one begins in April. And we're seeing the same trend going forward for next year and arguably into the year ahead of that. So potash revenues, sales strong, but the price a little soft. And so, a softening of the revenue there. And with respect to oil, today I just quickly checked, just had a quick look on Bloomberg, and the West Texas Intermediate price, which is what we base our budgeting on in terms of revenue back to taxpayers for their resource, is roughly $10 below the Brent price. That's the international, basically much more accessible world price if you can get your oil to the coasts. And so that's the first differential. Then there is another differential that we face because roughly half of the oil we produce is sour or heavier oil in Saskatchewan. It's exported, 70% of our oil is exported to the U.S., and wherever it's exported, if it's heavier oil, it requires more upgrading, more refining. And so our price is then discounted for that. Then there is a third discount we face because of tightening and right across North America. That's why Keystone is so important. That's why we work to get 10 governors supporting our letter to the president. It's why we support Gateway and even now this new talk of a west-east pipeline that the Atlantic provinces are interested in. We need to move Western Canadian oil to ports because that pipeline capacity issue means that our oil is discounted further. And because of that, we're looking at a 19 to 20% discount off of West Texas. Today, I think West Texas Intermediate price is at $95 and change. Oil's having a rough day today. It's off $1 or so. And so another 20% less than that is basically what we're looking at to price into the budget and base our oil revenues on. Well, that's a significant softening. Now, we're going to meet the challenge. We have some things going in our advantage. We have a diverse array of resources. We have strong sectors of the economy, and not just resources, but in the secondary sectors. We have a rainy day fund of $500 million plus. We have a lot of options to make sure the budget remains balanced. We're going to do that. And I think it's very important to say, John, to make this point. The budget and the economy are two different things. We saw that in 2009 when we were $2 billion short on potash revenue, but the economy was comparatively stronger here than almost anywhere else. That's true today. Our economy remains very strong, but for various anomalous reasons, a differential is one of them, the budget will be challenging. And so that's an important point to make to listeners who are wondering about the economy and the budget. Sometimes they're linked inextricably, and sometimes they delink a little bit, and that's what we're looking at in this year.
Premier Brad Wall, before I let you go, Premier, on that question of the economy versus the budget, you've noticed in recent months, at least, the increase in the number of people and the economic activity here has actually given you more government revenue than you budgeted on consumption taxes, sales taxes, these sorts of things. Is that going to continue?
Oh, yeah, we do believe it is. And by the way, John, this is at the core of our growth plan that we released in the fall. This is why we want to keep the province growing. There are challenges that come with that growth in terms of infrastructure and labor shortages, better than the challenges or the problems that we face when the economy for years in the past has been in decline. But as those people come to Saskatchewan, you quite rightly point out they pay taxes. As they open businesses in Saskatchewan, small, medium, and large, the tax base expands. And because of that, we're less reliant on the price of potash or the price of oil. We're less reliant on natural resource revenue. And we're actually seeing that in the budget. We're seeing some of the decline, the softness in the resource revenue being compensated by the strength of the economy, by a growing economy, and we see that continuing. Forecasters also are picking us to be number 2 or number 1 in growth next year, and we can't get complacent about it. We've got to keep our head down, make sure we're competitive, make sure we're telling our story, and that's what our growth plan's all about. We're gonna continue that work.
Premier, thanks for dropping by. We'll talk soon.
Have a good day, John. Thanks.
You too. Premier Brad Wall joining us en route to the annual SUMA convention, which is going on in Saskatoon. So